The event of tossing a coin will result in either of two possible outcomes, heads or tails. Probability is the likelihood of an event's occurrence. The probability of any event lies between 0 and 1. If an event is impossible, that is, will never occur, its probability is 0. If an event is certain to occur, its probability is 1. The sum of probabilities of all possible events is 1. The theoretical probability, also called classical probability, of an event E, written as P bracket E, can be calculated as the number of outcomes favorable to the event E divided by the total number of possible outcomes. When a coin is tossed, the theoretical probability of the event, heads or tails, is always 1 by 2, as both events are equally likely to happen. When we calculate the probability of an event after it has happened or after experimentation, it is called empirical or experimental probability. The empirical probability of an event E can be calculated as the number of trials in which the event occurred divided by the total number of trials. If a coin tossed 3 times comes up heads all 3 times, then the experimental probability of heads can be calculated as the total number of trials in which heads occurred, that is 3, divided by the total number of trials, which is also 3. You may recall that the probability of any event lies between 0 and 1. Tap the buttons to understand this better with more examples. The empirical probability of an event approaches the value predicted by theoretical probability as the number of trials is increased.
Chance or probability can also be studied by experiment. When you toss a coin, there are only 2 possible ways for it to land: heads or tails. Could you toss a coin and make sure you get heads as a result? No, that can't be done. Now let's toss a coin many times and see what happens. An experiment like this is called a random experiment. Heads and tails are called the 2 outcomes of this experiment. Tap on the toss button to toss the coin and see the tally of heads or tails get updated automatically. You can also set a number of tosses and use the auto toss button to get results for all the tosses. Let's see how we can calculate the experimental and theoretical probability for the event of drawing one card from a deck of cards. Here, the event of drawing a card can have one or many outcomes associated with it. First, select an event by setting the parameters. Then, set the number of trials and tap Draw cards to observe the experimental probability.
Fill in the blanks with the correct values. 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 An elementary event is one in which there is only one associated outcome. If we roll a die, the event of getting a specific number such as 1 is an elementary event, as there is only one outcome, the number 1. Similarly, the event of getting a specific number like 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 is also an elementary event, as there is only one outcome. However, the event of getting an even number would not be an elementary event, as there are 3 outcomes with even numbers, 2, 4 and 6. If we add up the probabilities of all the possible elementary events, we get 1. The sum of probabilities of all possible events or outcomes is 1. Here, E1 to En are all the possible events. If we roll a die, the event of getting an odd number is not an elementary event. Neither is the event of getting an even number. We know that a number can only be either odd or even. That is, odd and even numbers cover all possible outcomes. Thus, the sum of probabilities of both the events is 1. Here, we know that if an outcome is not odd, then it has to be even. Thus, an event which is not odd is even. Similarly, an event which is not even is odd. Such events are called complementary events. For any event E, we denote the event not E using the special symbol of an overhead bar. Thus, the above relation can also be expressed as: we can summarize that the sum of any event E and its complement is always 1. Tap the buttons to understand this better with more examples. Fill in the blanks with the correct values. 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 Let's summarize what we have learnt in this topic.